Right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our third session at our first ever virtual Startup Central. You're all very welcome. For those of you that are new or don't know me, my name is Hannah Mindell. I'm one of the business advisors here at Work Avenue. If you look around your screen, you will see somebody with a DS. That's Debbie Sheldon. She's just renamed herself Debbie Sheldon. She may wave. She is the CEO of Work Avenue. It is our privilege to work within the community. We are here to support people to earn a living, and we are the business team, so we're helping people who run their own business. We are very delighted to have Al Tepper and Simon Hutchins with us today from Fix Our Social. I don't know if you can tell their brand. Al's been a bit low-key about it behind him. So they don't need me to introduce them actually, because they're quite capable of doing it themselves. And they're going to take us through their 3 C's today. So Al, Simon, I'm going to hand over to you in just 1 second. I'm just going to say to people, if you do have questions, then please pop them on the chat. You can put your question to everybody if you're happy for people to see your name. If you've got a question that you don't want people to know that you're asking, you can send it in a private message to me, and if I get a word in, I will let Al and Simon know that the question is there. Okay, I'm definitely handing over to you guys now.
Awesome. Thanks, Hannah. Simon is joining me as well, of course, but just before we dive in, quick intro on who I am, and then Simon will tell you who he is, and I'll also introduce Fix Our Social. What we're going to cover today is the 3 C's that we have developed at Fix Our Social, and we've developed that over a long period of time because we believe it's the foundation for social success, and we've got a fantastic freebie for 3 of you, so stay tuned. So who am I? My name's Al Tepper. I've been in marketing for 20 years. I know I don't look that old, but all my life, that's all I've ever done. I've done it the hard way. I've learned most of the lessons I think that are there to be learned. I'm always still learning, and I run Fix Our Social with Simon. We also have other businesses into marketing design. Simon, who are you? Tell everyone.
Hi everyone. Yes, thanks for everyone being on board this morning. So I'm Simon. Although I look a little bit younger than Al, I've also been in the creative industry for about 20 years, since 2000, working up on various creative senior positions. And like Al said, we've kind of built Fix Our Social to bring Al's marketing strategy expertise and my creative expertise into one social brilliance. So yeah, back to you, Al.
Okay, cool. So the 3 C's today are really the culmination of all of our experiences across social marketing and design, and you'll see how that all interplays. And it's something you can all do. You'll all be able to take this away and apply it immediately. Obviously, if you want to outsource your social, I'm not going to bore you by telling you that that's what we do. It's pretty obvious, but I am going to give you one piece of information right now. It's in my name as well, and I'm going to post it in the chat. It is my mobile. You're going to need that at the end of this session, because the first 3 people that WhatsApp me are going to get a fantastic freebie. You can't do it yet though. You can WhatsApp me now, but it's going to be from the moment I trigger the freebie. So I'm just writing in 085849 07939 085849. There you go. That's my number. You're going to need that. Get it ready in your phones now if you like. So what are the 3 C's and why do they matter? And just to check the timing on this, we've got till 10:30, right, Hannah? You're on mute, sorry.
I know, we have got until 12:30 because it's already gone 10:30.
Sorry, 12:30. Forgive me, I'm clearly in idiot mode today. So the 3 C's are the foundation upon which we build all our social campaigns for our clients. We're not like the others. We don't believe we do things the same as everybody else, but that's because we've learned different ways over the years to do things. So we just do what works. Forgive us for not following the norm. So the 3 C's build a pyramid of content that we believe ticks all the boxes that your market need to be able to connect with you, to converse with you, and to be commercial with you effectively. And those 3 C's are creation is number 1. Pardon me, sorry, curation is number 1. I'm not looking at the right note. curation is number 1, creation is number 2, and conversation is number 3. So I'm going to cover curation, and then I'll hand back to Simon for the creation bit. But the key reasons why the 3 C's matter are because you have to get all 3 of these ingredients into your social. If you don't, if you only have 2 of them, or worse, even just 1 of them, then your social will come across as salesy and people will not respond. Now, I can't see everyone unless I do the speak of you thing, unless I look at gallery, but a quick show of hands. I'm just going to max out the screen so I can see all of you. Quick wave if your social doesn't work as well as you wish it did. And I'm going to wave. Excellent. So you're all here to get your social better. Great beard, Adam and Lazarus. I love that, by the way. That's a cracking beard. You get a special mention for a great beard. The reality is you've got to get the mix right. If you get the mix wrong, and probably you're going to recognize things you're doing right now today that are going to make you wince because you're not doing one of the 3 C's. So without further ado, I've started my clock. Curation is the basis of the pyramid that we build from a content strategy perspective. So what do I mean? Curation is about finding the content that your target market, because of course you have to know who your target market are. Curation is about finding the themes and categories of information that they care about. It's not about what you care about at all. It's never about what you care about. I saw something this last week. It was a fantastic quote in copywriting that said, you have to join the conversation your customers are having. Don't give them another conversation to join. Just join the conversation they're already having. And we know at Fix Our Social that markets are conversations. That means your marketplace, whether you realize it or not, they're having conversations all the time. And the trick is to join that conversation, not to impose a new conversation, but to join it. So the curation part of your social media needs to curate. You need to become an editor for your customers, for your target market. And you need to serve them with content that they're going to find relevant. It really doesn't matter about how brilliant your product is. It really doesn't matter what the pricing is or that you've got a special offer. It really doesn't matter where it's from, where it's made, how it's made. That matters later. But the first way to win their attention is to give them something they want or need. So curation is fundamental. If you don't get the curation right, it's just going to come across as a sales pitch. So the curation is not self-serving at all. You're going to identify, once you've identified your target market, you're going to identify the themes and categories of information that are going to support your services, your products, by helping them think and talk about things that matter to them. So, for example, I was talking to a client recently, and they are in the health and safety space. Now, they have a product and service that reaches to facilities managers. And the reality is that they can't just talk about their product or service. And so the campaign that's been created focuses on what facility managers care about, what operations directors care about. Nothing to do with the product. It's all to do with what's going to catch their attention when they're looking at Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever. It's going to stop them from scrolling. It's going to grab their attention. They're going to pause. They're going to read. And at that moment, what's happening is a tiny connection is being made between their brain and the icon that has posted that bit of social content. So in this case, they have created the first touch point of brand recognition for that brand. That then is what will build the base to allow that brand to engage deeper and further with regard to the things that matter to that brand. First of all, they've got their attention. Now, whenever we walk into a party or when we meet a friend, we don't start the conversation immediately by saying, so this week I've done this and that, and I'm brilliant, and this is what's happening, and we're really, really cheap at the moment. We've got a special offer. That's not how a conversation ever starts in real life. A conversation generally starts along the lines of, hi, how are you doing? The first thing we do is ask people how they are. The first thing we do isn't bombard them with a tsunami of fabulous features and benefits. And yet that's what a lot of our social does. Social is called social media for a reason. It's not called broadcast media. And the biggest mindset shift that you can all entertain is if you switch from being a broadcaster to being social. Start interacting on social in the same way you would with your friends and going into a party or going into a business meeting. The last thing you do is just wallop out a whole pile of features and benefits. And curation is the way you build that base by saying, before I talk about me, I think you're interested in this stuff. Is that relevant to you? It is. Great. We should talk more. You should probably follow us because we're going to publish loads of relevant stuff that helps you curate your world. And when we talk about curation, that's what we're talking about. You are an editor for your customer. You probably just didn't realize it until I just said that. You are an editor for your customer. You are editing the world for your market. And the better the job you do of editing the world for your market, the more of their attention they will give you. It is that simple. If you just try and throw a sales pitch at them, you will get none of their attention. How many of us, I'm going to go back to gallery view again. Again, I love the waving of hands things. Forgive me, it just makes me realize you're all awake. What's the worst thing that's ever happened on LinkedIn after you've accepted a connection request? Wave your hands in the air if you've got the, hi, thanks for connecting. I'd love to just now sell you something fabulous. I've had that so many times, it's not funny. How much does it make you hate the person? Number one. How much does it make you hate their brand? Number two. And actually, and this is really important, how much does it make you hate LinkedIn just a little bit? And that's why LinkedIn allow you to report someone when they've done that. That's why it allows you to block people, because nobody wants to be sold to. And yet we're all customers, we're all ready to buy. All of your marketplace are ready to buy from you. But not if you just try and ram it down their throat with a massively cheesy American style sales pitch with a big cheesy grin. Sorry for any Americans, but you know what I mean. A Gordon Gekko, you know, a Wolf of Wall Street. At the end of the day, those things don't work for a reason, and it's called social, not broadcast. So going back to curation, let me unpack what I mean by curation a little bit more. You're going to edit and curate the world. That means you have to understand your target market. You have to understand what they need. You have to supply them with interesting stuff, help them form the narrative around what you do. So if you imagine drawing a circle on a piece of paper and list everything you do in there, all the features and benefits. It's a really practical exercise. I call this the donut theory of content, because A, I love donuts, and B, it just works. So you're going to draw a circle and you're going to put your features and benefits in the middle of that circle. And then around that circle, I want you to draw a bigger circle. And now I want you to put things in that bigger circle that your customers care about to do with your features and benefits. So for example, why do businesses care about saving money? It's a common thing that we do for people. Well, they care about saving money so they can have a stronger business, better cash flow, blah, blah, blah. Now, if you just post about saving money, it's going to come across like a sales pitch because that's part of your value proposition. But if you talk about improving cash flow, that's totally different, isn't it? All of a sudden, the energy of it has changed. If you start helping your customers improve their cash flow, and by the way, as an aside, something we do helps people improve cash flow, you've now created a basis for discussion, which comes next in creation and conversation. So you have to give them interesting things from the outside of the donut that they care about. You have to also leverage the opportunity to curate content, most importantly, from businesses or people that you want to make connections with. So for example, in the case of the facilities management targeting for one of our clients, one of the things we want to do is make sure that they build reach, penetration and credibility with various publications and blogs and websites that serve the facilities management space, because it would be really cool if Facilities Management Weekly, very trendily named FM Weekly, if the editor of that saw this brand so many times that they then reached out and actually invited them to be on a panel to give an opinion around whatever it is they're covering. Curation does that because it builds those relationships with the people you want to influence as well. So not only are you sharing content that's relevant, not only are you building those relationships with people that you think are important to the space, to the people you're serving, But ultimately, you're demonstrating your commitment to them by not immediately selling to them. It's a really great and indirect way of showing them you exist, showing them that you know what you're talking about, that you're credible, and that you're not just, smashing out sales pitches all day, that you're more substantial than that. And curation is what builds that base. Obviously, one of the things we always qualify with clients because we have to give them some confidence around this, around curation, is what we're not going to do necessarily is share competitor posts. So when we're curating content, it's possible that competitors have produced great content. Some clients prefer us not to touch competitors, and they'll give us a list of people not to touch. So just to cover that off. But actually, the reality is there's nothing wrong with sharing content from your peers in the industry, from what we call competitors. It's not real. It doesn't exist. The bottom line is, if you think about it like this, if you post something on Facebook, if you share something on Facebook that one of your competitors shared, people are seeing your brand before they're seeing theirs. So that's what curation is all about. Be the editor. At this point, I'm just going to remind you about the phone number. Take the number down, because right at the end, there's going to be a fantastic, genuinely, we work with people in a multitude of ways, and we've got 3 freebies worth about 330 quid for 3 lucky people who are going to be quick off the trigger. So without further ado, Simon, would you get a 10-minute clock ready, because it's your session on creation. And if anybody has any questions, by the way, about any of this, I'm monitoring the chat as well. So Hannah, you don't even need to jump in. I will see the questions. If you want clarification, if you want to know more, if you want to dig deep, just ask. Simon, I'll shut up now, and you can have 10 minutes.
Not fantastic that you shut up, but fantastic that I'm on now. So just another little piece as well in relation to curated content. So it also gives you the opportunity to start showing your knowledge about that content you're sharing. So you can put a little bit of narrative about why you're sharing that post, why you think it's relative to your audience as well. So that's kind of tying into our last C conversation a little bit more, but it does give you that opportunity to connect in a slightly different way with your audience as well. So the second C, I'm going to talk about now. So you've mastered curation and you're posting curated content. So you're becoming a bit of a knowledge base by supplying your followers with interesting posts that support the services you offer. And like I said, forming this kind of narrative around the information that you're sharing. And that shows a little bit of your opinion and obviously the knowledge in your field. So this leads us nicely now onto the second C, which is creation. And obviously this is why I'm talking about it, because I'm the creative half of the business. So we can start to create content around what's happening in your business. And these all kind of form different types of campaigns. It's best to look at each of these as a social campaign, because not only does it give you a little bit more structure, but it also helps you to understand what type of content your followers are engaging with as well. So these kind of campaigns could include things like sharing customer quotes. It could be various forms of news about your business. Maybe you've got a team of people working around you, and you like to get your followers to know a little bit more about them. So there's more of a human element to your business. People really do buy from people after all. And it could be also posts that kind of showcase the services you offer or the products you sell without, like Al was saying earlier, without being too salesy. So you can talk about the challenges they solve and then the story around it. And this could really neatly kind of link through to maybe some case studies on your page. Again, just kind of forming a bigger picture about who you are as a business. And of course, things like we're on today, and whether you're attending outside of the COVID side of things, whether you're attending events, exhibiting that you think people might be interested, or maybe like Anna and I are today, we're actually speaking at something as well that you want to try and draw people towards. With all of these, there's likely to also be content that you're already using within your business that could start to form those creative campaigns. So many businesses already produce blog posts, whether that's weekly, monthly. You may have even got some marketing material, maybe white papers or ebooks that you've created for your own business to, again, show your knowledge in your field. these are what this is what we class as evergreen content. So unless your business dramatically changes, you can continue to use this kind of content and reuse it to promote either that piece of content or your business for months and maybe even years to follow. And that obviously can tie into marketing pieces like brochures and leaflets and things like that. So tying back into the creative side of things, and the types of content that we've gone through, so whether that's white papers, ebooks, blog posts, with all of those, every single piece of content that you're creating, can you multi-purpose that content? So can you multi-purpose it? So as business owners, we tend to spend quite a lot of money on our business, and particularly marketing our business. So one of the key things to consider when you're doing created content or creative content is how can you get a higher return of it from that investment, and that ties into any kind of content that you're creating for your business, because there's a lot of content that can potentially be repurposed within your business. So here's a little example for you. You've just completed an ebook or a brochure for your business. That ebook or brochure has 7 sections or chapters within it. So that's potentially a minimum of 7 additional pieces of content that you could use to promote that piece. But if you look a little bit more deeply into that, each chapter probably contains some quotes, maybe some key statements, maybe there's some research you've done and there's some industry stats in there that could also turn into social media cards as well. So if we look at that as a whole, we've got 7 chapters, each containing 3 statements. So that's 23 pieces of content, plus the headline from each chapter, that's 28. And then you've also got the title of the document or a screen grab of the page and the front cover of that document. So in total, from one brochure, one ebook, you've potentially got 30 pieces of social content from just one piece of marketing. So if you promote that twice a week, that's 15 weeks worth of content right out of one piece. So if we can use that principle on everything we're creating for our business, we can easily start creating quite excessive amounts of content to promote our knowledge base and our business going forwards. So now we'll lead into kind of the types of posts that you can take out of those. So these types of posts also allow you to get really created, graphically creative. So not only do you have the textual element of those posts, but you can have something above it in an image form that's going to grab the attention of your followers. So from a foundation level, you always need to start with your identity and your branding for everything you're creating, because obviously it's really important that your brand remains consistent and people get to understand you. So create on-brand and themed graphics, like I say, tying in themes to the campaign. So it could be a slightly different color scheme, it could be a slightly different look and feel for the template. But ultimately, if you can start creating themes across those campaigns, people start to understand exactly what you're posting about based on those categories. And we're all about the C's today, so here's another 4. Creative consistency builds consumer confidence. So make sure you're really consistent in your style so that followers can become really familiar with what you're posting. So that's creative consistency builds consumer confidence. And remember, once someone's hit that like or follow button, the next time they're likely to see your post or see your content rather is in their newsfeed. Incidentally, with everyone else's content as well. So you're going to be part of their newsfeed. So your large and beautifully clear logo that features on your profile pages now becomes a very, very small circle or square next to each of your posts. So make sure you're clear and recognizable. And this is why your creative posts, so your image style posts and graphics need to stand out even more, and why it's super important that they're in line with your branding. 91% of social media users access social channels via their mobile phone. 91%, that's a massive chunk of people. So whenever you're creating graphics for social, think about how it's going to look like on a mobile. So that size, on a mobile, if you don't think they can read it on a mobile, then your message is totally lost, and potentially you could have lost your reader at the same time. So another little tip for you as well. Have you ever noticed there's kind of a typical flow to content in your newsfeed? So it tends to go rectangular image, text, like, follow, rectangular image, text, link, follow. So a great way of disrupting people's news feeds is to break the flow of content. So you can experiment with this by using images of different proportions, and maybe even using block colors from your brand palette, or bold imagery will allow you to stand out away from your competitors as well. Another thing to obviously bear in mind with any of these kind of images is to try and incorporate a call to action into those post images as well. It will really help direct the reader to what you want them to do, and help them obviously read the post a bit further down as well. So to summarize the second C, which is creation, let's think about the types of information you can share with your followers, and then create a campaign for each of those so you can track the success of them. Try to multi-purpose or repurpose the marketing you're already creating to get more from that investment and allow you to post more consistently and more posts going out. And finally, create stunning on-brand social media images to support your post content and grab attention, and allow your followers to become really familiar with your brand, your business, and the content that you're posting. Back to you, Al.
Amazing, thanks, Simon. Some incredible stuff there, and I think one thing I'd add when it comes to the relationship between curation and creation is that where curation is the base of the pyramid and should be the most voluminous of content that you put out, the creation element is much reduced in number in theory. It doesn't have to be a lot, but it starts to permission the sales pitch. It starts to talk more about what you do and how it impacts on people, and as a result, I always call it the sell in the sandwich. So you've got curation and conversation and creation in the middle. It's the campaign stuff that really should create opportunities for people to ask you for more information, to ask you how something is done, to ask for more details or a download or a cheat sheet or whatever it is. It's the bit that allows the engagement to begin. And by the way, you don't ever engage your audience. People often ask me, how do we engage more? The first thing you have to understand that from our perspective is that you don't engage with your customers. It's a one-way street and it's totally governed by them. They choose to engage with you. And I know some people say I'm splitting hairs, but it's a really important psychological point. If you think you're in control of their attention, you're wrong. 100% of the time. You're not in control of their attention. If you try and manipulate their attention, if you try and trick them and get their attention, that things like clickbait that we've all fallen prey to on Facebook, or some dodgy Daily Mail headline and it wasn't what we thought it was going to be, we feel cheated. We don't trust the brand. So you've got to first of all accept that engagement is owned by the customer. Now focus on what you need to do to warrant that engagement. And the creation really allows you to play into that. What do I need to do to deserve their attention? That's the right question to ask. Not how do I get more attention? What do I need to do to deserve more attention? Jilly Black, what's the definition of a cheat sheet? A cheat sheet is, for example, an A4 with a summary of the 20 things you need to do before putting out a press release. So you could have a press release cheat sheet and there'll be 20 things to check to make sure you've got the perfect press release. And if someone was a PR agency, that might be a great download to offer, wouldn't it? Because you might sign up for that and give them your email address. And of course, now you've got a conversation going because then you can respond to them. So if you go to fixoursocial.com, we've got a fantastic download, which is the 7 secrets to social media mastery, and it's free. So if you go to fixoursocial.com, you can get that for free. And if you're feeling really, really brave, when you get to the end of it, there's a secret 8th insight. Ooh, but you have to ask us about that. And again, we're trying to demonstrate how to create conversations in everything we do. Okay, on to the next and third C. And this is, of course, conversation. Before I do that, don't forget the number in my name, probably at the bottom of your screen, 07939085849. After this, I'll explain what the freebie is, and then I will say go. And the first 3 people to WhatsApp me are going to get an amazing, genuinely, I think you'll think it's really cool. So without further ado, conversation. Right, conversation, we all know what it means. We all know what it is, or we think we do. But actually, most of us, especially when we're in business, we talk because we've got something to say. And actually, the best sales trainers in the world will tell you it's much more important to listen than it is to talk. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, as they say, and we should use them in equal proportion. And so when it comes to conversation, this is really the grand finale of your social content strategy, because you've done the curation, you've bought the trust and their credibility, you've bought their attention by serving them, you've paid by serving them great content they find relevant. And on top of that, you've then used the opportunity to seed in some campaigns, some relevant content that starts to draw you closer, draw the customer closer. So it's not just content that matters to them, it's now how that content relates to us. So slowly but surely, you're building that connection. In conversation, it is literally all about what we do, how we do it, what you need, what you don't need, what you tried before, what did work, what didn't work, where you're at, what part of the journey, whatever it is. This is now a we conversation. It's not a me conversation, and it's not a you conversation. It's a we conversation. And it is one-to-one. Even though you're using it on social, you're doing it in the mindset of someone you've met at a dinner party and you're talking to them. You're being conversational. So what do we mean by conversation? Well, engagement, getting engagement through likes. Okay, let me just I'm going to run a quick wave experiment on this. So I want you to get your waving instruments ready, right? These are your waving instruments, right? And how many of you want more likes, comments, and shares? Wave maniacally if you want more likes, comments, and shares. So it's totally the wrong metric, and it's all a waste of time. So that's the first thing we know. Now I'll tell you why. And lots of people would disagree with me, because I'll tell you what I'd take over likes, comments, and engage and shares any day. I'd take a direct message question from a potential customer every day, because that is something that I can pipeline. That is a conversation. Somebody's asked me a question. A comment is great because it could be a question, but what's the most powerful buying signal I can receive from somebody on social media? It's them sending me a private message or a direct message saying, Al, that was really interesting. I'd love to know more about X, Y, and Z. Tell me. That is great. That is paradise. Now, obviously, if you're a retailer selling pizzas or shoes, to be honest, that conversation is going to happen on your website, in your user journey, in your customer in your customer service process, and they may not actually speak to an individual until they have a problem with their order, at which point your chat function becomes the conversation point. Most of the time in e-commerce, the conversation is about your checkout journey. How frictionless is the shopping experience? But if you're selling a service rather than a product, and there's no e-commerce involved, then 9 times out of 10, what's going to happen is they're going to talk to you before they buy something, one way or another. They're going to talk to you or someone in your business. And so for me, when we talk about conversation, what we're really talking about is getting away from the ego trap. And I've been guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. The ego trap of, the vanity of likes. I once had a client who just said to me, the only thing I want is more followers on Instagram, because then I'll get people to sponsor me. That just isn't a sustainable business. You can't just rely on ad revenue. Trust me, I spent 15 years in publishing. You can't rely solely on ad revenue. It's very difficult. It's a very difficult model. And if you look at most media outlets now, they're doing other things. They've got joint ventures. They're getting involved in more of the conversation. And humans are social animals by nature. So just because we're behind a screen doesn't mean that it should be any different. We still live in a world where people buy from people. And I saw a wonderful thing yesterday, and I'm going to share it with you, not actually on the screen share, but I saw a comment from a marketing guy, a coach that I follow, and I shared it with with one of my groups. If you're a B2B company, you don't need to actively post on your brand's social media accounts anymore. What an absolute bombshell that is. You should post, but you should treat that account like a news feed or your brand's news ticker, the feed where new articles, links, and company information gets promoted. The real social media is done through the people at your company and the relationships they have with other people. And that's difficult for companies to think about, because how do you devolve your social media to your staff? But people want to work with real people. People buy from real people. And that's one of the huge benefits of social media. But it often gets hidden when we rely on our brand accounts. And then we wonder why our B2B brand social media accounts don't grow as fast as our personal accounts. So clearly you should be doing curation and creation and conversation on your brand accounts. But conversation can take place elsewhere. You're all ambassadors for the business you're running. And so what we talk about when we're talking about conversation, we're talking about asking meaningful questions, powerful questions that prompt a response, that raise other questions and give you the ability to respond and start a conversation. Because it doesn't matter how many likes you have. If no one's talking to you, what value are those likes? If lots of people are commenting, saying nice post, thanks for sharing, what value is that to your business? When all you really want is people messaging you saying, that's brilliant, how do I get involved? Or tell me more, Al, or can I book a call? Or whatever it is, because that's where the revenue comes from. All the other stuff is quite superficial. Now, they are positive signals, don't get me wrong. If you see a post with 1 million likes on it, you're going to take more attention of it. But most of us small businesses are not in the business of getting that level of visibility. The impact we want from social media is revenue. And if anybody disagrees with that, if anybody doesn't want revenue, please let me know, because I haven't found anyone in business who doesn't want more revenue yet, and you may well be the person to break that mold. So you have to look beyond the likes. You have to really focus on the activity you're doing and how it impacts on the social channels and how that impacts on your market, on your customer. How are you making them feel with your social content? Again, let me flip back and remind you to that LinkedIn message you got from someone saying, hi, thanks for connecting. My name's blah, and I want to sell you X. And I'm not going to say I'm a salesperson. I'm going to sneakily say, how do you do this at the moment? I'm going to skirt around the issue. How does that make you feel? Well, it doesn't engender trust, does it? And it doesn't make you want to buy from that person, even if you do need to buy whatever it is they're selling. So if they approached it differently, if they merely followed you on social media and you followed them back and you saw some of their content, and some of their content was curated, brilliant information from my industry, created fantastic campaigns showing me that there's more stuff here I need to learn, and then conversationally driving me to the point where I reach out to you to ask you a question because of something you posted on your social media, then you are winning all the time. Because you haven't had to chase me. You haven't had to hunt for me. I've come to you. And that's what social media should do. Social media isn't a lead generation device that you turn on a Monday and your pipeline is full on a Tuesday. It does not work like that at all. There is no question. And we say that to every client. We put it in black and white. If you're looking for a silver bullet, a quick fix, or a get rich quick scheme, forget about organic social media. Because unless you are an influencer with 5 million followers, and even when you have 5 million followers, by the way, there was a young influencer a couple of months ago, before the pandemic, who had, I think she had 33 million followers on Instagram. She launched a t-shirt range. And sold 12 t-shirts. So what value is 33 million followers if you can only sell 12 t-shirts? It's a waste of time, trust me. And for small businesses, there are lots of people who will spin you round and around and convince you that you need more likes and you need more this and you need more that. No, all you need are more customers. So let's just go and get them. Ultimately, what you want to do is get clients into your pipeline. You want to book meetings and you want to close business because of it. I'll take that over likes and comments and shares every day of the week. I've been using social since right at the beginning, you know, even before the era we live in now, Facebook and LinkedIn era, you know, back to MySpace. Some of you will, of course, remember MySpace. Some of you may remember Academy, which was the first business network. Some of you may remember social networking before even all of that. And it was never about sales pitch, because it didn't work then and it doesn't work now. So I saw some questions coming in. How many hours? Great question from Hannah. How many hours a week do you think people should be spending on their 3 C's? Well, this is a great question, actually. We get asked this a lot. The most important thing is it's not about the quantity of time, it's the quality of the time. So you could spend 10 minutes a day and be super focused, have a really strong avatar, idea of who your customer is, have a really strong sense of the content you're curating, the campaign you're running, and how to start conversations. And that 10 minutes could be really powerful. And equally, I've got plenty of examples, sadly, of people doing, you know, 2 hours a day and spinning their wheels, getting nowhere. So for me, and it's also the same answer to another question, how much content is too much? It's not a quantity question, it's a quality question. There are exceptions to this. On LinkedIn, your first post of the day will get you the most favorable response from LinkedIn. Your 10th post of the day on LinkedIn will get you the least favorable, because LinkedIn will say, well, he's already posted 10 times. But here's the way to beat that. Post awesome content. If you've got amazing content, post it. Don't think to yourself, oh no, I've already posted today, because the chances are, with organic reach being as low as it is, most people won't have seen it anyway. So even if you post 10 times, frankly, most people won't have seen it. Conscious of the time, we've got, I think, 2 minutes left. Can there be a risk if you rely on your employees to be brand ambassadors? Absolutely. But if you can't trust your employees, why are they your employee? So you've got a bigger issue if you can't trust your employee to be a brand ambassador, because here's the news. They're already brand ambassadors. They're just probably not very active. They're not doing it very well. And they probably need better support and training to be awesome brand ambassadors. You've got an entire sales team of people who love your business because you pay their rent. Why wouldn't that work? You've just got to work them the same way. So just before, Simon,
I was just going to say, in addition to that kind of question, I mean, it's a similar to a way in which you should maybe look at your brand identity and how we use it creatively, and using a guideline document to make sure that people don't deviate away from how you're representing your business. Same on social. You know, your brand, if you've got a lot of people working for you, your brand will naturally have a certain tone of voice. So guide them into how they should be talking on social, and how they should be sharing your posts, so that everyone is consistent and there's a consistent tone of voice across all your employees' social accounts.
Absolutely. So just before we close, first of all, someone asked me to take a selfie of me presenting, so I'm going to do that. So bear with me. I'm going to close the chat so that I don't hold on, and I've got to put it on speaker view so I don't breach GDPR. So let me take a picture of me presenting, and then I'll tell you about the CTA. There we go. Look at that, double head, really weird. Right,
He's asked you to do that.
Sorry?
That's for our content.
I think so.
That's
yes,
our marketing manager who would have asked us.
Oh, brilliant, perfect. So the call to action: phones on ready. You've got the number 07939 085849. The first 3 people to WhatsApp me are going to get this from Simon and I. We have got 3 strategy hours. Normally they're never free. We don't ever give them away free, because I've got 20 years, Simon's got 20 years, and that's across social, marketing, and creative. And you own us for an hour. I'll do whatever you want. If you want me to call a client and close them for you, I'll try that. If you want us to give you a marketing strategy, I'll try that. If you want Simon to tell you what he thinks of your web design, he'll do that. Whatever it is you want us to do, you've got both of us for 1 hour on the same session, and we will do whatever we can to move you forward and solve whatever challenge you throw at us. And we'll tell you how we work with others as well. Obviously, it's a given. The phone line is open. The first 3 people to WhatsApp us will get that. Everybody else who WhatsApps us will still talk to you, but we won't give you the free hour. So just to let you know. Okay, loads of you doing that. That's great. Are there any other questions that Simon and I can answer? I think I saw one from Ekaterina. What's the best day's time for engagement? Oh, Yes. Were you going to say the same thing?
Question, yeah.
Yep. Best days and time for engagement. It's a tricky one. I always prefer my target market to be awake when I'm posting. I find that helps. I'm being glib for a reason because it seems obvious, but even I do it. Sometimes I'll post at like 11:30 at night. You know, it's not necessarily the best time, but sometimes I just want to get content out. The best times, depending on the audience, I know that if you're trying to reach senior executives, you want to get them first thing in the morning. You definitely want to get them first thing in the morning. The more senior they are, the earlier. So if you're trying to reach if you're trying to reach Richard Branson and you've got his mobile number, well, frankly, if you've got his mobile number, let me know. But if you're trying to reach Richard Branson, you've got his mobile number, my advice would be send him a message at 5 a.m. because he gets up early and that's probably the quietest part of his day. If you're ever going to get a reply, it's then, and it better be a bloody good message because he probably gets loads of them. If you're trying to reach mums in their 40s, I would imagine middle of the day, just because if they're at home, if they're working at home and they're on mat leave or they've got young kids and they're primary carer, then chances are 11 o'clock might be a great time. Stats show that mums tend to be online then. It really depends on the audience. But for senior executives in business, I'd say early. Yeah.
I was going to say the other thing to bear in mind is there are 7 days to the week. So although we're generally in business 5 days of those, there are still 2 posting days that you could potentially utilize. And with potentially less people posting on business channels on Saturday and Sunday, it may be a great opportunity to get your post out there over the weekend and get a different type of audience looking at your post and engaging with you. Absolutely.
I love Saturdays and Sundays. The signal to noise ratio is lower. Great point. Julie Black, what about retired people? Best time to reach them? That's a tricky one. The Silver Surfer is the most elusive to track down because they really, they're retired. They can literally do whatever they like. So again, I would tend to focus on early morning. I would imagine my gut feel, everything I know about that market, having marketed it before, is early rather than late. They don't tend to be lazy and have lions, and they'll be very focused, getting stuff done at the beginning of their day. So the stats would support that, I'm sure, if I had them to hand. I would say, Gilly, morning, maybe not very early, but mid-morning probably. Cool. If there are no other questions.
Thank you so much. I honestly cannot believe how much you crammed into 45 minutes. It was fantastic. And I can't quite believe it was 45 minutes because it went so fast. There was so much information. It was brilliant. So hopefully 3 lucky people, was it 3? Will get their free hour. Thanks so much for being part of our virtual Startup Central. I won't make you do the big reveal on screen because then there'll be people crying and it will just be embarrassing. So
it'll be messy. Yeah,
we won't do it now. For everybody who's attending, we are starting our keynote speech at 12:45. I have to always look at my notes to see what time it is. But for now, Al and Simon, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. It was absolutely fantastic. And we hope to see you as part of Work Avenue again soon. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, and bye-bye.